All right. Good morning.
Good morning, Sarah.
It is Friday, April 4th, 2025. This was supposed to be kind of our first week of getting started in our new plan. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about what we have been doing and what we plan to add to what we have been doing and how we think we're going to fit it into our lives. This week it was a challenging week.
Yeah.
It was a challenging week from a workout perspective, and it was a challenging week from just a lot of stuff going on. I thought that today would be the day to make the transition to the formal first 6 months of the 18-month prep plan. That day hasn't gone quite as expected.
All right, so it's April 1st. I was exhausted last night, but I've been looking forward to this actual date. I think once you set a date to things, then you have no choice but to.
So last Sunday, we sat down with our coach, Brad, and we mapped out a little bit of a plan. So we have roughly 18 months between now and Kokoro, September Kokoro 2026. So we sat down and we kind of mapped out 3 6-month blocks. The first 6 months focused more on kind of building up our capacity and our endurance. Obviously, to go for 53 hours requires some pretty good general endurance, mental and physical. And then the next 6 months, ramping up our volume and our capacity from a strength perspective. And then the last 6 months kind of dialing in and getting to a level of intensity that has us really ready for the event. So that means we have to go from where we are to some level of ramp up. So we started by establishing some things we want to do baselines on. We really want to make sure we do baselines on things like pull-ups, push-ups, squats, sit-ups, some of the things that are part of the PST, which is kind of an early gate to participating in the event.
Or not getting knocked out of there.
Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So that gate could mean that you don't actually get to keep going if you don't make it there. In fact, 2 gates. But those 2 gates are a PST, and the PST standard for men. It's like 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, 50 air squats, 10 or 12.
More squats, yeah. Dead hang pull-ups.
Dead hang pull-ups,
Maybe
and a
15.
mile run, at least. So for women, it's maybe 40 of those. All that has to be done within a 2-minute window. The pull-ups have to be done without leaving the bar.
And it's not the beginning. It's like somewhere like
That's
after
right.
you've already been beat up for a while, so in an exhausted state.
It's somewhere in the middle of your first day.
Yes.
After some pretty intense work. Yeah, exactly. And then later that day, sort of the kind of last thing in the evening before you switch to overnight activities is a Murph.
The Murph, brings memories.
How did April 1st go for you?
So, the night before I was like, I had a little time falling asleep. I actually ended up getting good rest then after I finally centered myself. So that first morning I was ready to go. And, I came in here, I did baselines for push-ups. I sort of have a routine already about coming to the gym in the mornings before work and all that. So I didn't have to change that much more other than knowing that as I do my regular stuff that I do here and I'm doing those baselines, I was exhausted at the end of that day. I was more exhausted than usual.
Before April 1st, what were you typically doing in a week?
So typical week, 2 classes every day. So I do the CrossFit class and then the row plus classes. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. On Tuesdays, I do the CrossFit and the cycle class. And then on Thursdays, I don't do CrossFit, I only do the row plus class because it's a very extremely challenging row class. Like Brad said, don't do anything before that. And it's, he cranks up the heat to like 90 degrees. It's like 50, 60 minutes. It's really, really tough. So that's been my routine. Oh, and on Sundays I do row. Yeah.
So it's like 9 classes-ish, 9 or 10 a week.
Yeah. And in addition to that, I've been doing some of the work that Brad had me doing for the prior events in between classes. Just some movements like working my pull-ups, rows, flank holds, more push-ups every night, hanging on the bar for as long as I can to build the strength of this. And I've been with Enzo, one of my dogs, going to, when we do our walks, like in the Montour Trail, things like that, I put on like a 35-pound brick that I found at Home Depot and just kind of try to walk as fast as I can, although Brad says I'm not walking fast enough. So that's gonna be my routine. How about yours?
You've been working harder than me.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. I've been in just kind of maintenance mode. So I've been doing CrossFit 5 days a week. And I usually try to do like a bike or a run or a row, like by myself once a week. And I go to Krav Maga classes that are an hour each twice a week, and a jiu-jitsu class once a week. And I just joined the fire department, our local fire department, as a volunteer last fall. So I've been working on completing my training for that. So that's have a couple hours of training each week doing that, and then
sure that's
chasing my
physical.
kids around. And I had some issues with my shoulders and some issues with my hips, so I've been working pretty intensely on physical therapy, or had been 2 to 3 hours a week from November to March. So now I'm kind of making that transition into being able to do more stuff that's kind of fun.
Do you say
So that's
chasing
really
the kids
good.
around?
Yeah, chasing my kids around.
Are they
That's
keeping you
probably
busy?
actually why my VO2 max is where it is.
Okay, so that's a secret.
I'm curious how you feel. I feel like right now I'm in a really good balanced spot. Like I feel like I can perform fairly well. Today's VOD notwithstanding.
It was very challenging.
Yeah. So I think that's really good. It feels like I'm starting from a really good, healthy place, but it also feels like from a volume perspective, I have a lot to add, and I'm excited about that. This week I was traveling for work. I got a full-time job and 3 kids and a firefighter school. So that keeps me kind of stretched, and I was supposed to travel for work on Monday night. Flight got canceled, so I drove overnight to the meeting spot. I had a very, very short night of sleep, but figured out how to get an A workout. It wasn't quite the workout that I had envisioned, but I think that's like part of the game, is that life can't be put on hold in order to do this training. This is stuff you have to fit in the interstices of whatever else is going on in your day. So this week was more mental training for me.
Mental, like how, like preparing to see how you're gonna fit it amongst all that.
That's a good question. So thinking about how I'm going to fit it all in, but also you have a plan in your mind for how it's going to go, and you have a sense that I need to do this in order to be on track. And fortunately we have a long window, but the sense you have to do this to be on track, and then when you can't do the thing that you had planned to do, it's easy to feel demoralized and like, how the heck am I ever going to work this out? This is a little increase in what I'm doing every day. How am I going to get to the point where I can actually fit in this training? And I think that's a real question. So we'll see.
We have busy lives. We have to do a lot of intense work, really, even if it's in short periods of time. So how are you managing your energy, really?
So we've talked a little bit about box breathing,
Okay,
and about
yes.
using breath work partly for just stress management, but also generally speaking for energy management. Different ways of using breath to energize yourself or to calm yourself. So I've been thinking about it like, number one, the day really starts at night by going to bed and getting a good night's sleep. Because in truth, if that doesn't happen, I can get through a day, but I can only get through so many days without really getting that in place. So I try really hard to get as much sleep as I possibly can.
And what does that look like these days? As much sleep as possible.
An ideal night is probably 8.5 hours of sleep for me. What I usually get is closer to 7.5. But the reality is probably, like Monday night I got 3.5 hours of sleep. That adds up over the week. Probably I get 6.5 weekdays more than I would like. I try to sleep in a cave and no noise, keep it as consistent as possible. I don't eat anything after 6 p.m. If I miss dinner, I just miss dinner, because it's not worth it to me to lose out on the sleep. And so that means meal planning is a big piece of it too. I have a Sensate device, and I try to use that to help me get some moments of meditation in throughout the day. What about you? What do you do?
One big part that helps me out a lot is cold showers. When I finish a shower in the morning and at night, the last minute and a half, 2 minutes, I just switch it to cold water, cold. I don't care how cold it's out there. And that actually helped me a lot with my energy. It just, I don't know, it recharges you. Even if it's a little before bed, it just kind of gives you some clarity. So that helps me out a lot. So
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of sleep. I spend big part of my mornings here. Then I go straight to work. Since I work from home, then I'm pretty much until the job is done, right? So
Work until you drop.
Oh yeah. And another thing too, before that April 1st, I have this big thing at work, a project that lasted a lot, pretty much a week, and some things that we had to do were planned. So, that kind of work mixed with life, because work from home, that sometimes makes it really challenging. But I usually get maybe 4 to 5 hours a day of sleep. But Saturdays is my day to rest. So what I find helps me a lot is actually walking with my dog, taking him out. That's just going outdoors with him, right? Because I'm in the gym, I'm here, we run, whatever. I'm at home working from home. And then when I take him out, just being outdoors where it's rainy, sun or fresh air, we go, sometimes to the mountain trail. That also I think recharges me.
Yeah.
Especially if it's sunny out, that totally recharges me. And as far as nutrition, I've been trying to really dial in on avoiding a lot of pastas or bread. So I'm not really good on my diet, but what I've been doing very consistently is just eating salad with chicken usually every day. and maybe like a wrap or something with egg. Pretty much every day. I do have a double sweet tooth. Some kind of sweet just to satisfy that.
Cool.
But in the mornings I do get one of those protein cookie things that they sell. Just because otherwise I'll be completely depleted. But I do have to do a better job at that because I know in that my rhythm doesn't allow me to really fall asleep as early as I'd like to because my mind is running and it's like, oh, there's always more work that I can get done, so the next day I have more time. Recently started doing that box breathing here at the gym. So just found YouTube video that walks you through that 5 minutes, and I've been doing it since April 1st. And that has helped me.
All right, so before we sign off, one goal that you have for the next week.
To make sure I complete all my baselines. So far I've done 2 this week. I want to make sure that I finish the rest of the baselines by the end of next week.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, baselines are on my list too. And I'm going to say my goal is to get back on track by tracking my daily intake and make sure I'm hitting my protein macro.
So tracking your nutrition.
We're going to be accountable to each other.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. All right.
Let's do it.